Hey everybody, welcome back to another How I Did That. That's right, today we're going to be talking about how I did. These games are getting really realistic. And by doing that, we're going to find out that these games are actually real. Wow, what a cool turnaround, huh? This is a community continuation of the game engine that used to be in Blender. It's called like UpBGE, like upgraded Blender game engine, I assume. But yeah, I'm going to be taking you through it, looking at all the different things. Let's watch. Here's the rocket. All this stuff is pretty bare bones. Um, this is just a simple generated landscape with a landscape generating plugin. With some hair rendering as these little grass. This is all procedurally generated textures and animated with geometry nodes as well as the game engine nodes. There's also some grass up here, power lines, a lot of things that are completely unnecessary. I just added them in because I liked them. Then if you come in, you see there are the doors, of course. I kind of showed the physics of it like not really working at all. Like you can't like throw it or anything. The all physics just turns off basically. This is a slightly different version than what was actually shown in the animation. Because I tried making the physics work better, but I couldn't. And that's best exemplified here with the bed. We don't need to talk about the bed. Let's come into the actual control room. Here you see there's a bunch of buttons and knobs, a phone, some display cabinets, a vent back here. Oh, flashlight works. That's good. There's a vent back here. You can tell that this shelf was put in front of the vent and they moved it. That is a novel detail, I guess. Oh yeah, there's a siren out there. And of course, if I pressed E in here on any of this stuff, it wouldn't actually do anything. E is only for picking up objects, and even that doesn't work. You can like pick up um, anything basically, and since this wasn't a physics object, it's just stationarily like that. The lighting is a bit weird where if you it's like contextual lighting, but because the game camera moves around, it sort of changes the way that ambient occlusion and light shadows work. It's really quite strange, but I found that it was really beautiful just getting into a certain position with the flashlight on and just standing and looking in certain areas. There's just something about the way that it renders with the grain and the texture of the walls and all that that just looks really nice to me. The lights are just painted emission objects. There's some filters over the gameplay as well. The button is set to activate when you click with the left mouse, and what it does is it plays some sound cues from that door, this door, and then finally the rocket taking off. Originally, the siren was supposed to go off as well, but the sound just didn't sound right in the context of being inside. Also, there's some weird smearing, don't worry about that. So I disabled the siren sound. If we actually leave the room, and if I set off the button, you can actually see I animated the door closing. Oh, I turned the siren back on. The camera shake and the rocket takes off. Only that far. If we actually come into the project, we can see that it's all pretty straightforward game engine stuff. You play as a cylinder, there's all the objects laid out, you have the map, and it all looks pretty nice. If I come into the game engine thing, you'll see it's a bit messy. It has code, I'm sure, but I couldn't figure it out. and one of the nodes turned a bright red, and it's really freaky, and I don't know why. But all of the movement, the buttons, everything, I think this whole section here is the animating of the button being pressed and all the sound effects as well, and it's all pretty messy, but it worked. And I do want to continue working with this in the future. Hopefully, I can figure it out a bit better, movement and stuff, so that it actually plays nice as well as looks nice. An obvious inspiration for the style of this game is Voices of the Void, but the initial concept for this was not at all going to be a missile-based simulator. It originally spawned from me seeing some really nice looking train photos and tweets, photos and videos I saw on Twitter that really gave a nice atmosphere, and I wanted to try and recreate it. Let me pull that up real quick. This was how the original concept looked. You're inside of a small single person train outside, the wind howls and snowy mountains pass. There'd be trees and stuff as well, of course, maybe some landmarks. This front area would have controls to stop the train and open the door, and maybe some sort of power supply. But it was meant to just be an isolating, single person experience in a strange, frozen landscape. Naturally, my first thought was not to make this in Blender, because Blender is a 3D software, not a game engine software. But of course, the only game engine that I'm really familiar with is GameMaker, which is a 2D game engine and not a 3D game engine. However, that did not stop me from trying in GameMaker anyway. This is me trying to test 3D in GameMaker. As you can see, it has, there are 3D shapes, and it knows when I can move around, and there's a block. You can walk up a ramp, stand on this, and when you step off, you fall down. As far as games go, this is not particularly thrilling. As far as graphics goes, it's horrific. I tried to get this block to act as a 3D object, so I'd be able to pick it up and push it at the very least, or manipulate it in any way whatsoever. But the plugin that I was using, I don't actually know how to animate with it. I looked through the source code and I couldn't find anything about manipulating the models after they were spawned. It's only pre-made animations that you would export with them, which is not very good for if you want to do something procedural or Gravity. I also installed Unreal Engine and Godot, but given the fact that I was the most familiar with Blender, I decided to go with Blender for the game engine. I'm sure that Godot and Unreal would yield very good games, but I don't know how to use either of them, and the very small amount of tinkering that I did, whew, I couldn't figure out how to import a model into Unreal and have it like actually work. And Godot, I couldn't even figure out how to make an object move. So wasn't particularly promising, since I didn't look up any tutorials or anything, which, yeah, I mean, if I wanted to learn them, I would have looked up tutorials, but I wanted to do something quick. A lot of the time that I spent was spent not working. I would spend a lot of time just coming into the engine and just walking around and having fun, doing nothing. And I think that's a big part of game development, is just sort of appreciating what you've made, and even if it's not very good or fleshed out or functional, it's nice to see things that you make come into fruition. Of course, a lot of the time it is very frustrating and sucks because a lot of the time things don't work the way that you want them to. And sometimes it's good to just keep on trying and maybe you'll figure something out. Or sometimes it's better to try something new, try something different. It was a nice learning experience. I can't especially say that I could make a full game with Blender's game engine, but I kind of realized that I missed making games. I used to make games a lot in Game Maker. When I was still in high school, I would make games a lot. None of them were really good or finished, but they were games. I think that at some point soon, I will might make a series where I make a game or something. Maybe I'll stream game development. Although with how sporadic my brain can be, I don't know if that would really turn out well. I had an idea for a series where I would just make test things in Game Maker just to like have a variety of things that I can make. And then maybe at some point I'd release like a WarioWare minigames collection. But yeah, I don't know. I love video games. I don't play them enough. Yeah, I hope you enjoyed. Maybe I'll add more to this if I think of anything more. This is recorded a bit after the fact. I didn't talk about the clay scene at all, and I just wanted to point out the character model. It's a bit different, and it was inspired by this artist's recent post about pixelated fish. And, you know, I made a nice bedspread that isn't really visible at all. And the computer, the chair is also really weird. I made the chair and desk, they look a bit odd. And then the background is just a bunch of simple shapes. The explosion was done. You can see down here there's some sort of shock waves made with a semi-translucent shader. And the explosion is just a big emission sphere. And yeah, it just comes through like that. And then there's a smoke after the fact. The window exploding. Whoops. The window exploding was just done by replacing it with another similar mirror that has a quick explode modifier on it. Very simple stuff. I will see you guys around. Bye bye.